Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I didn't catch the beginning of that, but I do hear you okay.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was literally just saying, can you hear me okay? I'm never
Okay, so I
sure.
just missed it.
No problem.
So good evening or good morning, wherever you are.
So what time is it where you're at?
Currently it is 7 a.m. I and you were you were thinking that we were not on daylight savings time, I assume?
I was on this webpage and there was a note that I didn't catch that told me that most of the East Coast currently is on EDT, which I'm assuming is like East Coast time with daylight savings. But apparently there are parts of the East Coast that aren't on daylight saving. And I didn't realize. I thought it was all at the same time. So I miscalculated by an hour. It's okay, though.
Well, and as far as I know, all of the U.S. is on daylight savings time, so I'm not sure if what you read is correct.
Not even all of the U.S. celebrates. Arizona doesn't celebrate daylight savings. There's a couple of areas that don't celebrate it, and they celebrate it on slightly different calendars.
Interesting.
I live in South Korea, which doesn't celebrate it, or I guess celebrate it isn't the right word. Which doesn't.
Yeah, celebrate. Yeah, it's on its way out. I think it's an old concept that never really made sense from the beginning.
Not to me, and I hate to say that because I admire Benjamin Franklin, and I think he was the primary cheerleader for it back, when it was adopted in the U.S. However, tournaments are coming up, and during tournaments, I need to be a little bit more, methodological. But for these debates, I'm fairly casual. I think I'm probably coming up on the end of my 3 minutes already, but I'm not sure. So we should first define what we mean by altruism. If I'm correct in my surmise that my time is already coming to an end, then I'll let you give your definition first, and then I'll go and give mine. So it says what I have like 5 more seconds left. Let's see if it automatically switches over. It doesn't. It didn't switch over. I think I probably went with self-moderated. I wasn't sure. Okay, so for my definition, by altruism, I'm meaning really the concept of selflessness. It's sort of more problematic to define than it would seem. And altruism, selflessness, doing something for the benefit of another without any reward or compensation for yourself, roughly. But I'm going to pass it over to you. How would you define? Let's find a common core here before we actually argue. So go for it.
Okay. I just want to start out by saying that this is my very first debate. I've never experienced an actual debate. So this is all new to me. I'm glad you self-moderated. I hope we can make this a learning experience for me as much as a debate. But I will start by saying that I almost certainly agree with you that complete altruism is an impossibility after reflection. But I think the gap in definition comes in activities which don't come from reflection. Basically, an altruistic act is an intention to act altruistically. And that is a conscious rationalization that happens quickly. Through self-reflection, you may find that you come to the conclusion that, yes, I had a self-interest here. Yes, I had, possible things that could have motivated me subconsciously. But consciously, at the moment when I did the act, I told myself that I was doing something altruistic, and I believed it.
Right. As happens frequently with debate, at least in the way that I don't necessarily follow the debate paradigm the same way that everybody else does. You said learning experience for both of us. Well, to me, honest debate is always a learning, or it should be always a learning experience for both interlocutors, to use the jargon. And I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. If I've learned something by the end of the discussion, I'm happy. So I like your definition. I do like your definition of debate. I do think that if there's not an aspect of intentionality in it, then it's not worthy really of being described as altruism or selflessness. And I think that you've explained that lots of things that might initially seem to be altruistic upon reflection weren't actually. Is that what you explained?
Yes, actually. What I wonder if I could engage you in a line of questioning.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, would you agree that consciousness is the basis of rationality?
I think it's required for rationality. So, yeah, in that sense, it may be the basis. I mean, it's an integral part. I don't know that it would make any sense to talk about rationality in a non-conscious being.
Right. Well, and what I'm saying is rationality as we know it has grown out of us first being conscious of our thoughts and then analyzing them, is basically the assumption I'm asking.
I think I can go with that because I think of consciousness as being aware that you're aware. So it means that you've had to think about yourself as a being. And in other words, if the concept of consciousness has never occurred to you, you're probably not. You might be aware of your external environment, but if you're not conscious of your awareness or aware of your awareness, you're probably not. That's a strange argument, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I'll accept your definition.
Okay, and therefore, if you're a rationalist or a person who believes in rationality or the value of rationality, then you believe that then you must, in that case, believe that the consciousness or what we believe as our conscious thoughts has value. I only ask these questions because some people subscribe to the idea that our subconscious mind makes all our decisions, and our actual conscious mind is just a kind of hazing over of what we've already decided. And
in a sense, it's the mediator between your. Yeah, I don't know whether I buy that. I'm aware of that viewpoint. I understand your reservations, which I'm interpreting as your reservations with that viewpoint.
Yes, they are reservations. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What was your? Was there? I think you were asking another question.
Yeah, I was going in a line, kind of. All right. So would you say that a conditioned response is not rational by necessity?
A conditioned response wouldn't necessarily, or maybe wouldn't necessarily involve rationality in itself,
Within its context, yeah.
right? When I scratch my nose right now, it's not, there are cases that I think, oh God, I'm on camera. Should I scratch my nose? I've made the decision, but usually I just scratch my nose.
Yeah.
Just something that I do. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so what I'm saying is that many acts that people consider altruistic are actually conditioned responses.
Yeah,
And
I would agree.
therefore are not rational by their nature, meaning that even though I may have done this out of an instinctual kind of motion, like pushed a person out of the way of a car and gotten hit by the car myself,
Right.
That certainly did not have enough reward in it for myself to make up for the act of, I may have been thinking that, hey, I'm doing the right thing, and there could have been a whole bunch of warm and fuzzies, pushing me to do that thing. But essentially the reward was not there, but it could be called an altruistic act because the reward did not outweigh the cost of the action.
I understand what you're saying, but I thought that we had decided that to be an altruistic act or selfless act, that it required some intentionality. Isn't that what we had previously decided?
Well, the intention of altruism, I have to agree with you. I am doubling over now. It seems that the conditioned instinctive act to go out and push someone out of the way of a car may not actually factor in to you thinking that you are doing a altruistic act. You may not be thinking at all. So the intention may not be there.
I want to say thank you for that. I'm enjoying this discussion. And I also want to say that there's lots of behaviors that I've observed in my life where, whether I would define them strictly as altruistic or not, I admire greatly. I have a friend right now who is doing missionary work in Mali. Man, I admire her. No running water most of the time, or even electricity. So she's giving a lot. In ordinary conversation, I would probably refer to that as her as a selfless human, right? And no disrespect intended to her at all. I admire her a great deal. But I wouldn't refer to her as being as altruistic or selfless when we're getting to the nitty gritty, when we're talking about ultimate truths. And to me, that's what, the discussion that we're having, if there's any such thing as. Yeah, I mean, to me, it has to involve. I'm a school teacher. I've been a teacher for a long time, and I would, at least I believe that I would, throw myself off the top of the school, or rush into the building on fire and rescue my babies, because I love my students. I mean, as much as I do my own biological offspring, they're my babies, right? I teach elementary school, and I wouldn't describe it as selfless, because from my perspective, I am deriving some satisfaction or some benefit from having done that, or I wouldn't have done it. even if it's the being able to face myself in the morning, or the parents of the kids, or the relief from guilt for not having rescued them. So there's sort of altruism on a pragmatic, by a pragmatic, practical definition. And then there's altruism. Is there really such a thing as absolute selflessness? And I'm arguing that there's not really, right down to Mother Teresa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sorry, it's your turn.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'm getting some feedback right now. Okay, so I would like to agree with you that when we get down to the nitty gritty, and when we look at every single detail, we are all essentially connected, and there's absolutely no way that any act can be completely selfless without some underlying motivation for satisfaction. But and again, I would like to go back to the very practical, pragmatic sense of it. When you get down to the nitty gritty and say that there are no selfless acts, you're basically subscribing to psychological egoism. Are you familiar with
that? You mean in the sense that we all perceive the world through our own ego?
More in a sense that we essentially only serve ourselves.
We only what ourselves? I missed that one word.
We essentially only serve ourselves. Basically, let me pull up a quick definition here. Psychological egoism is the view that humans are always motivated by self-interest, even in what seems to be acts of altruism. So it's actually the polar opposite of altruism is psychological egoism.
I guess I would subscribe to that position. I don't think that we have any choice. We're animals. And can I read you a little bit here? This is
absolutely. I'm very open to everything. So.
I'm a big, huge fan of Adam Smith and The Wealth of Nations, which was an important book in world history, and especially in U.S. history. And my apologies in advance if this is a little bit long. I'll read it as fast as I can. Let's see. Two greyhounds, in running down the same hare, have sometimes the appearance of acting in some sort of concert. Each turns her towards his companion, or endeavors to intercept her when his companion turns her towards himself. This, however, is not the effect of any contract, but of the accidental occurrence of their passions in the same object at that particular time. Nobody ever saw a dog make a fair and deliberate exchange of one bone for another with another dog. Nobody ever saw one animal, by its gestures and natural cries, signify to another, "This is mine, that's yours. I am willing to give this for that." When an animal wants to obtain something either of a man or of another animal, it has no other means of persuasion but to gain the favor of those whose service it requires. A puppy fawns upon its dam, and a spaniel endeavors by 1,000 attractions to engage the attention of its master who is at dinner when it wants to be fed by him. Man sometimes uses the same arts with his brethren, and when he has no other means of engaging them according to his inclinations, endeavors by every servile and fawning attention to obtain their goodwill. He has not time, however, to do this upon every occasion. In civilized society, he stands at all times in need of the cooperation and assistance of great multitudes, while his whole life is scarce sufficient to gain the friendship of a few persons. In almost every other race of animals, each individual, when it has grown to maturity, is entirely independent. I'm almost done, I'm sorry. And in its natural state has occasion for the assistance of no other living creature. But man has almost constant occasion for the help of his brethren, and it is vain for him to expect it from their benevolence only. He will be more likely to prevail if he can interest their self-love in his favor and show them that it is for their own advantage to do for him what he requires of them. And there's a lot more. And years ago, when I first read those passages, 30 years ago, it was the first time that I ever thought, well, maybe people don't do things out of altruism, And then thinking about it for years afterwards, I decided, really, probably not. I don't know how long I read there. I hope it wasn't too long.
No, that's fine.
It's obtainable in its entirety on the internet. Just Adam Smith, Gutenberg, Wealth of Nations. And there you go. It's worth reading.
Okay. Well, I have to agree with Adam Smith in that, and but there are some strange exceptions, and it actually goes outside of the realm of consciousness and back into the conditioned response. Mm-hmm. For example, an adult cat. I watched a video the other day of an adult cat rescuing a small puppy from a stream it had fallen into or something, and it had been stuck on the side of a bank and couldn't climb out. And,
that's sweet.
And then, yeah. So the small cat rescued this puppy, and I'm sure that was a conditioned response of caretaking that the cat probably had. It in that moment saw the puppy as its offspring, and it needed to be helped up, and and that act had no reward for the animal. But again, can we call that altruism? Because, like you said, it was the self-interest of the cat to take care of its offspring. Right. But essentially, that self-interest was not necessarily the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter was that it was an altruistic act, but it was done with the intention of a selfish act.
So
I guess I'm trying to. I'm sorry. I guess I'm trying to establish that there's just we're simplifying altruism so much that we're losing something.
I can agree with you, and sure. Okay, the word altruism isn't actually one that really comes up during normal discourse very often, right? We're using it now. We might say that something was selfless. I think maybe that word arises more. And I spend too much time on Reddit watching those types of videos. I think it was a cat nurse like 9 baby hedgehogs recently. And no, the cat probably doesn't have any rationality in the way that we think of it, and probably so therefore wasn't doing it because she decided, oh, I should be good to these hedgehogs. There was probably it was probably a response to her own instincts of motherhood, but it still gave me a teary eye.
Sure.
So yes, I would call that altruistic or selfless In day-to-day discourse, I don't think we're actually disagreeing. I sort of think that we agree with each other, and it depends how you parse the definition. It depends how anal you want to be. So yeah, and I don't think that that's about outcome. Outcome. We have like 20 minutes left. You say this is your first debate on?
It is. If you'd like to inform me on some things, that would be wonderful. As you said, there is a moderated debate or a computer moderated debate where I would be muted. I assume.
Yes, when you set the debate up, you can do a head-to-head debate like we're doing. You can do a community debate, which is largely text. In the head-to-head debate, it can be self-moderated. You talk when you want to talk. Technically, I could be a dick and just talk over the top of you and vice versa. So it depends on us both being civil. Or there's the computer moderated where it mutes one of us every 3 minutes, back and forth, back and forth. And the debate tournaments, I think that's the only option available. I sort of like this. I think this is more friendly.
This is what I like to call a dialectic, where we're not really just.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you. That's how I argue. I'm going to include in the comments after we're finished here. I'll include in the comments a link to something that I've written that explains why I debate. And I like Wikipedia's definition of dialectic. Basically, we are debating, but we are stumbling towards a truth. And it's,
I like to call it.
Uh-huh.
I like to call it truthiness. I find absolute truth is a little hard to get to, but truthiness is a range that we can come within.
Yeah. Thank you. I know I've talked to very few people in my lifetime who, for whatever reason, dialectic and dialectical are bad words to a lot of people because of dialectical materialism, and which is connected to Marxism, which is of course evil. So the word has become polluted from its association with other things. So I think we're both appreciate the Socratic method. Good. Well, I think you'll do well here. It's a good community, and we have some really brilliant debaters. I'm not going to include myself among that number. I'm, just an average debater. Ben Hewitt is amazing. Nelson LaPlante is a good debater. I like to listen to Terrence Scott. There's quite a few. Those are just the names of some of my, of my favorites, some of my friends, and they're very fair and rational. David Sheeran. I apologize if I get the names. Are you on the Facebook forum?
No, actually, I'm not. I wasn't aware there was a Facebook side to this.
I will, and that's where you can read posts by everybody who's on the forum, and it's useful to schedule forums. So you post a message on the Facebook forum that says, "Hey, I'm interested in debating X," and simultaneously you go into this QallOut.com and create a debate, and then you post that debate and let people know that you're looking for an opponent. it's a nice forum.
Yeah, so essentially, this is a cold call.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There are most of the bad apples, and there have been a few, don't participate any longer. Not always
Good.
by their choice. So I look forward to debating you again. Maybe we should do it next time with the 3-minute, and maybe something that you suggest.
That might be better. I tend to find that through our discussion that we may agree too much in order to debate very well.
Right. I don't. One thing I don't do is I'm not really ever interested in the devil's advocate.
Oh, good. Me either.
Not really interested in that. But I'll post my debate philosophy in the comments right underneath this video, and I'll also post the link to the Facebook group, which I strongly recommend that you join if you enjoy this thing. And it's a good thing. It's worthwhile. We have some really amazing people in the group, and that makes a really big. Are you over on Quora or anything like that?
I'm not familiar with that.
It's another web page that's not a debate web page per se, but it's a great page just for discussion. So I'm going to end the debate unless you have something else that you wanted to say.
No, I was just honestly a little concerned that you were throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I see that you do make a distinction between the nitty gritty of the truth, like you said, and the practical, pragmatic side of things. So I don't think I have anything to teach you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed our dialogue very much, and I hope to see you again on QallOut. And in about a minute after I end this, you'll see links right underneath in the comments, and so I hope I see you on the Facebook QallOut page. Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to you.
Take care.
And your name is what? What's
James. My name is James.
Okay, my name is Chaz. So I'll talk to you again soon, James. Farewell.
All right, take care.